Well, I think actually, in many ways, that's the best England win of the summer, because usually they come from an impossible position and win. But here, they've almost delivered a flawless performance, controlling the game right from the start. They even brilliantly managed to lose the toss. And that made a big difference. Well, it actually didn't make a big difference because they would have put South Africa in.
Psychologically, it might have done.
Psychologically, it helped a bit. And they controlled the game from the very first morning and were not really threatened. They were wobbling a bit at 140 for 5 yesterday, and maybe if the lead had only been about 50, it was game on. But Stokes and Folkes sorted that. So, two very one-sided games. Well, let's hope we have a tie at the Oval.
Bizarre. An innings and 12 at Lords for South Africa, an innings and 85 here at Old Trafford. 5 for 7 in 5.1. I think we sensed the new ball would do some damage, and once you get one in that situation, it's tough.
New ball, position hopeless, tail in, it's likely to end pretty quickly.
Yeah, I suppose, especially with the tail enders to come. I mean, it was always going to be a one-sided affair, once England have taken that new ball. But again, it just shows you how key that first innings is. I mean, if you get blown away in that first innings of any test match, you are so... when you play against top position with top quality seamers, there's almost no way back. I know South Africa probably had to believe they could rock up here today, try and get to 400 and get themselves back into the contest, but that was never going to be the case. And I just hope that when we do get to the Oval, that weather will be fair for all 5 days, and we won't have a one-sided affair in one of the innings where overcast conditions suit both these top quality seam attacks. If you get a morning like that, both of them can blow you away.
Yeah, and it's going to be September the 8th, I think. Yeah.
Which you get all sorts of weather. You get
exactly
5 sunny days.
I mean, in the past you said starting on September the 8th, all that could be quite dodgy. But it's been very dry, of course, in London. Some rain around recently, some thunderstorms the other day. But I think the forecast is quite good for another week. So it might be quite dry. They probably can prepare the sort of pitch that they want to do, but of course what you can't prepare is what happens above on the morning of the game. If it is dank and overcast. We've had 2 matches which have started in quite similar conditions so far. I don't think I can ever remember a test match, there probably have been games where it actually felt like the first session was actually going to decide the game. Now, we said it at the time, whether it was 2 or 3 wickets against 5 wickets, something like that, and as it was, England managed to get the 5, and
not since Lords, really.
No, but that was half a day, wasn't it? And it they got 116 for 6. It felt a bit different, but I think because we knew the sun was going to come out. The forecast was the sun to come out at 1 o'clock, and it did right on cue, and then it becomes easier to bat, because it was very much about the overheads rather than the pitch. I think the difference at Lords was that the pitch had a bit of tackiness about it as well, and so it was quite tricky to bat. And you got the slope, and these days Lords is quite a difficult place to bat if the weather's not playing ball. But
absolutely. And I fully have to agree with you on that one. Even having a chat to Dean Elgar, after being rolled in the first innings, they illustrated the point that, or highlighted the point that, if they could get through that sort of first hour and a half, because they obviously looked at the forecast. The forecast looked obviously good for 4 or 5 days up here at Old Trafford. But I think after this test match, and I suppose both teams will go away and find ways to really brush up on before they head into that Oval test match. And I think England will probably tick a lot more boxes than South Africa, in the sense that you always look at your batsmen to score hundreds. England obviously got Folkes and Stokes obviously got 100 in the innings here for England. And South Africa, their top order has been under the pump for a little while now. I don't think we've seen a 100 in a little while from that South African top order. So they will go to the Oval with a couple of question marks, and I suppose England came here with a couple of question marks. So,
and it's very hard, isn't it? The Test series come with the tests coming back to back, and nothing much in between. So the potential replacements have not batted for some considerable time.
Oh, here we go. So we've got some breaking news. Rassie van der Dussen has been ruled out of the last test because of a fracture of his left index finger. It was great credit to him that he came out and battled away today. He sustained the injury while fielding on the opening day of the Test match. He's going to return to South Africa to consult a finger specialist who will then guide him on further medical management. The Imperial Lions all-rounder, Jan Mulder, has been added to the squad.
Yeah, he's playing a bit of cricket at Leicester at the moment, if I'm not mistaken.
He's been playing in the One Day Cup, hasn't he? Yeah.
Yes, if I'm not mistaken. But I think, from a batting perspective, it is so difficult to replace guys going into a last Test match, and especially when, as the away team, because there wouldn't have been much cricket, and even in the warm-up game, you'd have played, your first bets of guys, to get some time under the belt. So, I mean,
there's a bit of time, but there's no games.
No, absolutely, and I fully agree with you. So, I think the one possible change that we could see is a guy called Ryan Rickleton.
Yeah.
He has been playing some county cricket as well over here, so he'd probably be your best suited guy to take over.
They've got to find one for certain.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
in normal circumstances, you're thinking, well, Markram, does he play again? He's really struggling at the moment in the way that Crawley's done, but possibly even worse.
Yeah, it's a really good point that Vernon made about that top order. England got a couple of hundreds, but I think only one South Africa batter has made a half century in the two matches, and that was Ifea at Lords. So that top order, although they won a game, they didn't have a great deal of batting practice. Whereas at least I suppose Stokes and Folkes and Bairstow spent some time in the middle. I suppose even Crawley spent some time in the middle. And the one of the players who has spent some time in the middle today, Van der Dusen, he's not going to play. The next game.
It's a great sadness, and you want your senior players to stand up, and South Africa will have to go back and really address that point. Test match cricket, you still need hundreds. You can absorb the pressure for as long as you possibly want, but you still need to get big runs on the board. And again, it got so near in the first innings by England. You get 400, and you can really dominate the Test match from there onwards. And suppose with the bowling lineup that South Africa has got, that bowling lineup has bailed South Africa out for many a time.
Yeah, they will look back and think, did we pick the right team? It spun a bit, but it didn't spin enough to make that decision work.
Well, if I've just switched on, England have won this match by an innings and 85 runs. South Africa losing their last 5 wickets for 7 runs in 5.1 overs against the new ball, with Robinson taking 4 for 43 and Jimmy Anderson 3 for 30, and Ben Stokes, a marathon spell, picked up 2 for 30. I wonder who's going to be player of the match. 5 Sports Extra listeners will bring you the post-match reaction shortly, but we'll say goodbye to our Radio 4 long-wave listeners now. You'll be back a week on Thursday for the deciding test. Right, let's head down to Jonathan, who's going to get all the post-match reaction. He's down there with Stephen Finn.
Great minds think alike, so I've just asked that very question of Michael Atherton, who's about to do the presentations. And he said, who do you think? And Ben Stokes is indeed the man in the match. It might have been Ben Folkes, who has had a terrific game himself. I think the way that he kept wicket, not as well as the 100 that he scored, was outstanding here, actually. But here we are, yes, gathered down by the presentations. I think Dean Elgar will go there first, and then he'll come to us. So it may be that we'll get Ben Stokes fairly swiftly, actually. But there's a very happy-looking crowd observing everything that goes on just down here at ground level. Dean Elgar's got a smile on his face. He's got his hands in his pockets. It's not a great feeling as a losing captain. However, Stephen, it's all set up for the Oval.
It is. It's been a fascinating Test match, hasn't it? I think on reflection, people will look at the decisions they made at the beginning of the Test and wonder whether those were the right ones. But it's good to see England come back and win this second Test match in the manner that they have done today, and it makes it a really fascinating encounter next week at the Oval.
Let's have a look. Ben's got he might have got a bit ahead of himself there, because he's gone marching up to Mike Atherton. I think Dean Elgar is going to go first. I'm just trying to catch the eye here of the gentleman who organises these things in Danny Rubin. And so I think if things work out as they normally do, I'm going to have a chat with a second time today with Ben. But your shirt was a bit actually tied here a bit first thing this morning, Ben. Anyway, well, brilliant, eh?
Yeah, amazing. Set up wonderfully, from the outset, the way that we played in the first innings, and then just unbelievable today. Like, everyone just flew in and gave their absolute all. They obviously had a little partnership there in the middle, but one of the most impressive things from this whole game, I think, is the relentlessness that we showed as a bowling group, and also as a fielding group as well. We never let up.
That spell of yours either side of tee, again, another marathon, but interrupted by a cuppa with your feet up. But again, I mean, where did you get that energy from after the break?
I was sort of a little bit. I was looking at the new ball, and obviously the ball was reversing quite nicely. I felt on good rhythm, so I didn't really want to have to look to turn to Robbo or Jimmy before the new ball, because I knew how important the new ball played on this wicket. So that was the thinking behind that.
Yeah. Ollie Robertson, I think, showed again why you preferred him. He's very skilled. Yeah,
he's incredible. Just the natural skill that he has. His height, the way, the areas that he bowls as well. He's not just a tall bowler. He's just relentless with the areas that he bowls, and he just gets natural variation, which is so hard to play, especially with that new harder ball.
Your man of the match. It could, I suppose, have gone to Ben Foakes, who's had a terrific game and keeping well on a tricky pitch to keep.
Yeah, I should have done, really. I think sometimes keepers' performances can get overlooked, but how tidy he was behind the stumps, never mind just the 7 catches. A game, for him that he'll always remember and should never forget. Match-defining innings, and just, he showed his class again behind the stumps. He's just an absolute delight to have there for all the bowlers and me as a captain as well.
Mentioned the crowd. I mean, behind there, Jimmy Anderson running in from there is deafening.
I know. Well, that's probably why I didn't hear all the nicks.
Yes, you missed a bad one there.
I know, exactly. I didn't actually hear the one that Robbo nicked off Nokia with as well. I was complaining another player missed until everyone started cheering. So, yeah.
Right. So the Oval all set up for a decider.
Yeah, great. Great for the series as well. Nice break as well for everyone to go away and recharge their batteries. But we know we're going to be coming up against a pretty similar team in South Africa. They're always in the fight, and we're not going to take this game as sort of we've got one over them again. That's the series, because we know how hard they come. We know they've got performances like them like the first test.
Well done, Ben. Thank you. Thanks for talking to us. Thank you, Danny, very much indeed. Jumping ahead of the queue there, which is great. We've got to move this way a little bit now, or we get told off. Well, that's a bit different to last week, actually. I've got to be honest, the interview with Ben there at Lord's.
Well, to be quite frank, it's nice for me to be down here when England have won. We did all the ones in the Ashes in the winter, and they weren't pleasant. It's a very different feel down here. He's obviously very happy with the way that his team has played through this Test match, and you can see how selfless he is, and actually how astute he is when it comes to thinking about that second new ball and how important it was going to be, and not getting more overs into the legs of Robinson and Anderson, and just the type of person that he is, he decides that it's him who has to bowl a 14 over spell to get it to the second new ball, which his knee may not thank him for tomorrow, but his team will certainly thank him for that tonight.
I mentioned Ollie Robertson to him. I mean, we haven't seen him for a little while. I certainly haven't seen him at his best for some time. He struggled through the Ashes a bit, but what a reminder, actually, of what a very, very skillful bowler he is.
He is, and like Ben said there, he's relentless. I think the height that he bowls from and the full length that he does bowl allows him to bring batters forward, and that's why he gets so many caught behinds. He got that last wicket bowled. It's because he bowls such a full length and is always challenging the batters, but he gets that steep bounce that finds the shoulder of the bat. His position's on the crease. He's obviously got fitter, I think, since the winter. He's worked very hard on that. I've seen that firsthand. And to have him back in the team and taking that new ball, for someone to come in and take the new ball off Stuart Broad, who has over 550 Test match wickets, they have to be some bowler, and no one's managed to do that consistently over the last couple of years, and Ollie Robinson is now doing that.
Yeah, he absolutely is. I'm just looking at Ben Stokes there. I mean, he just looks like someone who's been in a battle, doesn't he? I mean, his clothes are filthy, he's sweating, he's got a sweat-stained cap, and there he is. I mean, tattoos down his left arm. I mean, he really does. He'd be someone you'd follow, wouldn't he? As captain, you break a brick wall down for him.
It does make you slightly jealous. And not saying that I didn't want to play for my other captains, but he's the sort of guy that it seems as though he just trusts and backs people and allows them to go out there and express themselves, because he, I think, benefited from that when Trevor Bayliss came in and gave him the licence to bat at 6 and be the fourth seamer and make a difference in every aspect of the game that he possibly could, and to play without any inhibitions whatsoever. And I think that he has now taken that into his captaincy, and I think that it's going to be very easy for the players to fall into line behind him and follow him.
Well, here's a man with a big smile on his face. We don't see that very often. It's Jimmy Anderson. Well bowled, sir.
Thank you very much. Felt great. Thank you. It's been a hard few days for us, actually. I know we've finished the game in 3 days, but actually on that pitch we've had to work really, really hard. With the ball in the first innings, yes, it was moving around, but we managed to put the ball in the right areas. And with the bat, we had to really graft through some tricky periods. I thought the way Zach in particular and Johnny Bairstow played really set up for Ben Folkes and Ben Stokes to be able to get hundreds. You know, the way they soaked up the pressure. We talked about this after the last game. Yes, we want to play a positive brand of cricket, but there will be times when the opposition are bowling well and we've got to soak up some pressure. I thought the way we did that was fantastic, and then we managed to attack sort of later on as the ball got a little bit older. But then come today, we knew it was going to be tough. We didn't expect to bowl them out for less than 240 or whatever our lead was. We knew it was going to be really a tough day's cricket, but it was thoroughly enjoyable. You know, with some reverse swing out there, still a little bit of seam, a little bit of variable bounce, and it was so nice to be a part of, because we, as a bowling group, absolutely loved it.
I saw you enjoying the crowd. I mean, they obviously get right behind you here. Is every time you play here for England in the back of mind, or it might be the last time?
To be honest, I guess every time I play cricket, I think this could be the last time. So I'm just enjoying the experience. You know, I've talked about how nice it's been a part of this group, and this sort of shift in mindset that Ben and Brendan have brought into the group. I'm just happy to be a part of it, and you know, I could retire tomorrow. I'd be absolutely delighted, but obviously I want to kick on.
You're not going to, are you?
Absolutely not. I feel like I'm bowling really well. The ball came out great today, and I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. Yeah.
It's interesting to win so quickly. And people will no doubt have been hearing about, almost talk about this year, about the way that England are looking to play. But actually it wasn't really like that. This was quite a traditional, hard-fought game, as you're saying. Yeah,
I think we still went with the ball. We were looking to take wickets the whole time. We never at any stage went defensive. I know the ball was moving around first innings, but we kept the even if they built a partnership, we kept the slips in, we kept attacking like catches in place. And something we talked about from the last test was, with the bat, learning when to soak up pressure and when to put it back on them. And that, I thought, as I said, Zach and Johnny did that brilliantly. Zach soaked a lot of pressure up. Johnny tried to put a bit back on, couldn't quite kick on, but played an amazing knock. And then Ben and two Bens just played brilliantly and got us into a match-winning position.
And finally, a word about Ollie Robinson, actually, who we haven't seen bowl at his best for a while, but what a reminder that was of what skill he has.
Yeah, I thought he bowled brilliantly. First innings, I thought the first spell he bowled, he could have got two or three more wickets than he did. And I thought he got better and better as the game went on. It's his first game back for a long time. I think there were some nerves there. But hopefully for him, he can kick on now from what was a really good performance.
Enjoy your evening, Jimmy. Thank you for talking to us. Well done, well bowled. Now, I'm looking for Dean Elgar. Where's he gone? Oh, he's over there. He'll be a little while yet. Yeah, we're talking about Ollie Robinson. I mean, tall, hits the seam. And to relegate, is that the right word, Stuart Broad, to first change, and that takes some managing too, doesn't it? I mean, if you're Stuart, you could be, oh, okay, after all these years and all these wickets. But I guess if it's done in the right way and done in a positive way, as they have with his batting, actually, all this hawk business, then I mean, he didn't seem to be disgruntled at all.
No, and that's the sort of environment that it feels like this team is working towards and has built already in the small space of time that they've been together. You've got a 40-year-old man there who's played 170-odd test matches, saying that he's so excited about playing in this team, and you can see that he genuinely means it. He looks refreshed, he looks excited about being part of what this team wants to achieve, and I think that part of that is going to be making sacrifices. One sacrifice is Stuart Broad hasn't taken the new ball in this test match because Ollie Robinson has come in. That doesn't mean to say that he won't ever take it again. I think that the ability to be interchangeable and the ability to be able to do whatever's best for the team in the conditions is something that I think that Brendan McCullum, from knowing him a little bit, will be getting all of the players to buy into. And I think that ties in with the way that Zach Crawley played in the first innings as well.
Well, here it comes. It's like a roller coaster, this, Dean. I mean, elation last week and not so much this week. How do you feel after that?
Yeah, it's a bit of a reality check for us. I thought England played a great 3 days. Obviously, I think we lost it in the first innings. Clearly didn't get enough runs. That kind of speaks for itself. You need runs in Test cricket to try and get 20 wickets as well. I always thought if we're in with a shot in our second innings, trying to get about 400, try and match their first innings with a wicket that's maybe deteriorating, and our fast bowlers been able to maybe get that low bounce in the wickets, we were in with a shot. But yeah, we were way short.
You read the pitch right, though, didn't you, on that first morning? I mean, you got all that right, but it was the gamble with the cloud, wasn't it?
I actually had a feeling that the sun might come out after lunch, and geez, it did. But 5 wickets down at lunch, you're always going to be playing catch up, as England were doing in the first test. You're always going to be behind the game a little bit. If we maybe didn't lose those 2 wickets before lunch in quick succession, I think we would have been in a better space, been 80 odd for 3, maybe going into lunch. 5 down, and you got your middle to lower order coming in. It's always a massive ask for them to come in and face a newish ball still with fresh bowlers as well, and a wicket that's pretty lively as well. But I really thought it was a good wicket. Good battle between bat and ball. We just didn't apply ourselves enough with the bat. Runs were key, and obviously we didn't tick that box.
You've got a bit of a brute yourself this morning.
These things happen when you face these quality bowlers that have been around for donkey's years, I guess. But yeah, I mean, that's the game for you. You got one with your name on it, and you got to try and survive it. It happens.
Yeah. What are you going to do between now and the Oval then? Because I mean, there's going to be such excitement building up to that match.
Yeah, it's all set up for a cracking third test, and I think rightly so. Two very proud playing test nations, and the Oval's also an amazing stadium to be playing at. We've got a little breakaway now for a few days. We were doing that anyways after this test. And now we've got 2 extra days with our families, which I'm sure the guys would like to go away now already. But we've got a few days away from the game, and we'll obviously go back to the drawing board and dissect everything.
Thanks, Dean. Thanks for talking to us. And we look forward to seeing you at the Oval. There we are, Dean Elgar, who's always a very honest, straight talking individual. And he was high last week, and that's Test cricket for you, isn't it?
It is, and you have to ride those highs and lows, and I'd imagine as a captain you have to do that as well. He will obviously lie in bed at night wondering or thinking whether he made the right decision at the toss. I think he did read, as you say, the wicket the right way, and if they felt that the wicket was going to spin as it did later on, that they played the 2 spinners. But that first morning was just so crucial. We felt it when we were out there. It felt damp underfoot. It felt as though it may be difficult to bat, and as he said there, those 5 wickets in the first session killed them.
Someone who was clearly under pressure was Crawley going into this. They only batted once, but I think we talked about it yesterday. I mean, he did shut out all that talk about, again, Bazball or whatever you want to call it, about the way to go and throw the bat. And in fact, I think England as a whole sort of moved on from that, haven't they? They've sort of made their point that they want to play positively in those first 4 games of the summer, and that's what we're going to do, and so on. But actually here, this is a proper old-fashioned test match with patience and discipline. Yeah, played in the modern way. I mean, Stokes smashing the ball into the dressing room, standing just under here. You know, all those sorts of things. You're getting a big smile up there. You're saying, "Come on for a drink." There you go. Well, you should do, Finney. But you know, generally, and I think Crawley's a good example of someone who's actually just kind of moved on from that a bit.
Very much so, and I think actually the thing that's going to come in time is the intelligence to understand when you deal with those fluctuations in play, when it's time to go hard. And being positive, I think, can be misconstrued sometimes. I think being positive can be fighting your way through a really good spell of bowling, and that's a positive thing for the team to be able to capitalise later on in the day. And I actually think that Zach Crawley, especially in that first innings, in that first evening where he faced 28 overs of some high quality bowling, they were on a high from the previous test match. Rabada and Ngidi and Nortje have a new ball in their hand, and he weathered that storm. And like Ben Stokes said there in his interview, he allowed Ben Stokes and folks to be able to go and play the way that they did and put the pressure back on South Africa and ultimately get themselves into an unassailable position in the game.
For me, the real winner of this game has been Ben Stokes, I must say. The way that he batted, the way that he kept wicket, and those tricky conditions. I think maybe a little way down the line we'll look back at this match. I think that this was actually really the game that made him.
I think, certainly. I think that from that first Test 100, he said himself that it had been a long journey to then feel as though he was a regular in the team, which almost certainly now he will feel like that. And I think that the way that he played was in a positive manner, but a measured manner. He outscored Ben Stokes initially and took the momentum in the partnership, and then he handed over to Stokes and made sure that he was there supporting him. I think that showed intelligence. His wicket-keeping is never going to be a question. His wicket-keeping is always going to be outstanding, and he acquitted himself in some very tricky keeping conditions very well. Dropped no catches, as you would expect from him. And I think sometimes when you have a performance like this at home, the first 100 you score at home, it can give you the confidence to feel as though you belong in this environment. And I very much feel that at the end of this game, when he sits down and reflects on it, with his 2 extra days off that he's earned himself and his team, he'll be very pleased with his work, and now will want to kick on.
Any thoughts for the Oval as a final question? I mean, I suppose England having won so heavily most recently, they're possible that they can take that momentum with them to the Oval, but I think anything could happen there, couldn't it?
Anything could happen. That we could have 2 weeks of baking sunshine and they could produce another dry one, and South Africa will have to decide if they juggle with the balance of their team again, with Simon Harmer, with the second spinner. Is that necessary at the Oval? England, I think the only change that they will consider making is whether they want to bring Potts, or who they want to play out of Potts and Robinson, who is the third seamer, and how they want to shuffle that around, because both have made outstanding cases for themselves throughout this summer. You'd imagine Ollie Robinson, after taking the wickets that he has done in this game and bowling, is the man in possession, but Potts has done outstandingly as well. So it really is a team game, and I think those are the decisions that the two teams will have to look to make when they come to the next Test match.
Great, thanks for your company, Steve. Look forward to catching up with you very soon. Lovely down here, sun shining, some crowd still lingering, and last interviews being given and that sort of a thing. So with that news then that England have returned the compliment. They've given the South Africa a hiding here, an innings and 85 runs to level the series. Let's go back upstairs to Simon Mann.
Thank you, Jonathan. We're going to be with you for another 10 minutes or so, just wrapping up this Test match. Vic Marks is with me, and Vernon Philander, and so too Andy Saltzman. We'll get a statistical look at this game. I'm quite interested in spin versus pace, because Dean Elgar made that decision to play 2 spinners in this Test match. We'll have a look at that in just a moment. Stephen was talking there about England's team for the next Test. I would be surprised if they make a change. What about South Africa then, Vernon? Because they're going to have to make one change, because Rassie van der Dussen is out. So who does play in place of him?
Yeah, I think probably Ryan Rickleton. I mean, he's played some county cricket over here this summer, so he'd probably be the guy that you want to turn to, because he's got some game time under the belt. He's got used to the conditions over here, used to the feel, obviously, of the Duke ball. So I can foresee him coming back. And then I think Marco Jansen should never have been left out in the first place. I think we've seen it at Lord's, the variation that he brings to that attack. He brings a good balance to the actual team, because he can bat as well. So we'd probably see him come back into the team in place of Harmer. Of course, South Africa looked at the surface and they thought, it's going to turn. But I mean, we're only on day 3. So from a team perspective and from a team balance perspective, I can probably foresee those 2 changes.
Yeah, Mulder's been brought into the squad. We don't see him playing.
No, I mean, he's really up against a Marco Jansen, and I mean, with the attributes that Marco Jansen brings to this team, I can't foresee him coming in place of Marco Jansen. He won't take a place of an out-and-out batsman, because you do still feel that you need to play 6 batsmen, especially in England, because you might get a tricky a session where you have to really guts it out, or you might lose 2 quick wickets. So I can't foresee them only play 5 batsmen. So for me, Mulder will probably lose out, but the guy that I do feel will come back is Marco Jansen, and of course the forced replacement for Rassie van der Dussen would be Ryan Rickleton.
Rickleton's played 2 Test matches. He's made 114 runs. He averages 38, highest score of 42. So he's in his Test career infancy. Ryan Rickleton. Jansen, do you think if he played here it would have made a big difference?
I certainly do feel. I think there was swing on offer, and then of course we have seen the oddball stand up. So I mean, with the attributes which he brings to the party, I think he's always going to be in the game. Tall left arm seamer that bring LBW and the outside edge into play. Those sort of guys are always going to be in the game, and I do feel that had he played. Yeah, I mean, who knows? It's difficult. It's difficult to answer.
Batted well at Lords as well.
Absolutely.
I think if he played, Elgar might well have bowled, and that was a critical thing. And I think he should play at the Oval unless it looks like an absolute Bunsen.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? You turn up at the Oval. Say we have 10 really dry days in London, and the pitch looks very dry again. but you're not going to make that mistake twice.
But I think you have to. We've talked about the fact that South Africa haven't drawn a game 43 now. People don't draw test matches unless there's a lot of rain. So it's a winner take all. You can't play for a draw. So you might as well play a side, I think, including Janssen, which has a very good chance of getting those 20 wickets, and hope that your top 6 produce. He looks so good at Lords, and he'll be sitting quietly in the dressing room, not saying anything, but knowing everyone's thinking, well, perhaps we should have played him after all.
Were you disappointed, Vic, as a former off-spinning or so, were you disappointed with Simon Harmer? 803 first-class wickets now, but 1 for 73 from 23 overs?
No, not especially. I don't think the pitch turned as much. We only saw 3 days' worth. It didn't turn as much as we expected. I thought it was a terrific test pitch, actually. In that there was bounce, there was carry, the nicks by and large they carried, and it might have turned quite a lot on day 5, but we'll never find out. So I wouldn't say that. I think that I think if South Africa got those runs in that first innings, then we might have seen him getting 5 for in the last innings of the match, but it never got to that.
Zoltz is with me. Let's do pace versus spin, the final analysis. Then we did one during the day, but what was the final analysis, pace versus spin?
Well, spin stayed at 4 wickets for 204 runs, so that's 51 runs per wicket. Pace, 25 wickets for 514, so that's an average of 20.5 runs per wicket. But if you look at pace and spin just against top 7 batsmen, no wickets for spinners. All those 4 wickets were tail-enders. Against top 7 batters, the spinners collectively, Leach, Maharaj and Harmer, 0 for 174. Pace bowlers took 19 top 7 wickets for 412. So it was with hindsight, certainly a decision that didn't work. Whether or not it's right or wrong, I guess.
I am curious about all the rucking about the ball, though, because if that ball stayed hard and kept swinging and bouncing for the entire match, I mean, how many runs would South Africa or indeed England have scored in there? We've been over in 2 days. So I think some of these opening bowlers have got to put up with the fact that the balls go soft and the spinners then have to come into the game.
Let's talk about one of those opening bowlers, Jimmy Anderson. Amazing, remarkable. You heard his interview down there. 6 for 62 in the game from 30 overs. I make it. He's now 666 in terms of Test match wickets. What have you got on him?
I think he's 664.
Is he? Okay, my arithmetic's terrible.
Anyway, either way,
664. That's right.
He's got a lot of wickets, averaging 26.2 over his career. But his last sort of 300-400 wickets have been at an average in the low 20s. That stands comparison with anyone from Test history. One interesting thing that we've been looking at through last summer and the winter was he'd been really struggling for second innings wickets, but this summer in 4 second innings he's now taken a combined total of 8 for 153 after his 3 for 30 in this innings. He'd taken just 14 second innings wickets in his previous 21 second innings at an average of 47, and that goes back to late 2018, so it had seemed to be a bit of an issue for Anderson, but we've seen the year that he's turned 40, he's having one of his best ever seasons. I think averaging 18 for the summer so far, with 24 wickets from the 5 games that he's now played in. So he was one that had a tremendous match. Ben Foakes, a century and 7 dismissals, only the 12th player to achieve that double in Test history and the 3rd to do so for England after Johnny Bairstow and Matt Pryor. And Ben Stokes, a century and 2 wickets in each innings, the first player to do that against South Africa since 1966, and only the 2nd to do so for England since Ian Botham in 1981 on this ground against Australia. Chris Woakes against India at Lords in 2018 was the other, and he also bowled this 14-over spell since in the last 10 years in this country, since June 2012. There have only been 3 spells of 14 or more overs in a single day by a seam bowler, and Ben Stokes has delivered all 3 of them. We'd highlighted before the series and before this match weaknesses in the South African batting. Elgar, the only player in the top 40, but that long tail, and today they lost their last 5 wickets for 7 runs, which is South Africa's worst collapse for their last 5 wickets since 1997, and their worst against England since 1957, and it's England's best skittling of an opponent's last 5 wickets since 2007.
Brilliant as always. I've got one last question. I bet you can't answer it. Has there ever been a bigger swing in the first two matches of a series? Or perhaps you can answer it.
Well, I was looking at whether England had ever been beaten by an innings and then won the next test by an innings, and if I've checked my tables correctly, that's only happened to England once before. They did so against West Indies in 1966, but that was the fourth and then the fifth test, and they were 3-0 down in the series before they won that fifth test. So it's only the second time England have lost by an innings, then won by an innings, but the first time when the series has been live.
Yep, England have won by an innings and 85 runs. South Africa winning that first test match by an innings and 12 runs. Jimmy Anderson, Victor, I mean, he's astonishing, isn't he?
He is astonishing, and he's just going. I think the way to go with Jimmy Anderson is just to forget how old he is and just watch him bowl. And you watch him bowl, and he's an automatic pick. And if he wants to go on tour to Pakistan, he's an automatic pick there. Because he's still so good. He's as good as he was, or he's better than he was when he was 30. It's amazing, but forget how old he is. Keep him playing if he wants to.
Yeah, I suppose, you always talk about experience, but, if you can back it up with the performances, playing for as long as he's fit. I mean, at 40, it's just, it's remarkable. He still rocks up every day, running. And it's incredible. But I think what a guy like that does, it really rubs off on the rest of the seamers to follow. And I suppose there's a lot to learn from him as well. And he looks like a wonderful team guy. And as long as he takes wickets, keep putting the tick next to his name.
Yeah.
Not only does he take wickets, but he never bowls any rubbish. No. He never gives the batsman any peace, even if he's not taking wickets.
Yeah, 62 runs from 30 overs, 664 wickets. I wonder whether he can get up to 700 test match wicket test.